Hey guys, my name's Khadroth, and today I'm going to do a quick PSA for you guys. Now, as you guys know, NA is currently in the throes of dealing with Lost Belt 6.3. I'm not going to talk too much about that, but I am going to point out the fact that Lost Belt 6.3 is probably going to get about 2 weeks of runtime on NA. That is to say, 2 weeks of uninterrupted time to itself. That usually happens to us with any story chapter release. We typically get that 2 week window. Sometimes they'll throw something in the second week. Obviously, we are expecting the Oberon banner in that, so most of you guys should know that by now. That being said, this PSA is more about what's going to happen after that. Now, you guys know we've already released a Lotto Guide video in the hopes of sort of preparing everyone no matter when the lotto were to occur. We don't know exactly when that date will be because it could happen probably right after the 2 week window is up on 6.3, or it might actually end up happening after a week after that. As again, you guys can see, we're actually doing for some hunting quests. So I'm not sure when these hunting quests are going to happen, but that's the PSA here. We know that we are due in for these. They could come right after 6.3, or they could come after the lotto. And that is kind of the order in which things went on JP. We actually had a lotto before 6.3, and then ended up having, obviously, anniversary in 6.3 and all of that. And in fact, I believe it was in between 6.1 and 6.2 was when we had the lotto. But similarly, a lot of people pointed out the fact that on JP, they went through a lotto, they had anniversary with its half-cost Embers, they immediately went into hunting quests, and then after that, they had a summer event that was functionally a miniature lotto, and then basically the Gouda 5 rerun raids. So they had a slew of farming events really quickly in rapid succession without much time to recover apples. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you guys about, is because we don't know when this is going to happen. This could happen as early as right after the 2 week window on 6.3 is up, or it could happen after the lotto. Y'all need to just be prepared for what this is. So taking a quick look at this, this is Hunting Quest Part 11. Now, in this one, I actually talked about this in my farming guide video at the beginning of the year. So if you want a little bit more info on it, feel free to go check that out. But again, you guys pretty much know the deal here, where you're going to have 6 hunting quests. And the way hunting quests normally work is they are decent opportunities to farm for the materials that are in them. You have functionally 7 days to complete 6 quests, and the way it's going to work is each one has 1 day, with the exception of the final hunt, which will have 2 days. At the end of that day, it rotates, so you can't keep farming the material once the 24-hour window is open, with the exception of the final one. However, this may not be the best use for your apples this year. As we've already pointed out, you do have a lotto coming up. That may be right after the hunting quest or right before it. And in which case, if it's before it, you're probably going to have all of your, mailbox and inventory stuffed with embers. If the hunting quests are before the lotto instead, you're not necessarily going to want to use your apples there because you know you'll have a lotto coming up that you're going to want to spend it on instead. So that's going to be the issue that's going to be running through everyone's head, is how do I appropriately gauge my apples? Again, do keep in mind that you also have even more farming events than I just listed. For instance, after the Gouda 5 rerun, you are also going to end up having functionally the Christmas lotto for the year, as well as the Tunguska event, which in and of itself will be a story/raid event. So you're definitely going to want to save apples for that. And then even after that, you end up having the Case Files rerun, which has the Barbados raid in it. And after that, you end up having an early lotto next March for Tesla Fest. So you're really running a gauntlet of farming opportunities here, and picking and choosing your battles is what you're going to want to do. So I highly recommend checking out that farming guide that I put out at the beginning of the year to see what materials are available. But for instance, just going through the hunting quests here real quick, your first day is going to be bones. And again, this is one of those materials that is very frequently found in a lotto. Certainly, if you're hard up for bones and you know you're going to need them, hey, it's not the worst idea to go ahead and farm some, but just keep in mind that, yeah, they're almost always going to be in a lotto in any given year, so you probably don't need to farm it too hard at an actual hunting quest. Now, that being said, if you manage to do the 90 plus version of the hunting quest, you'll also have an opportunity to farm out some decent embers. But hey, there we go. At the same time, you might also be able to gain QP and some ascension materials in addition to that via a rare spawn. If that manages to happen, this does actually make the hunting quest sort of an all-in-one lucrative type of daily node instead. So instead of farming, say, Ember Gathering or basically Chaldea Gate for the treasure hunting quest for QP, you can end up instead just farming the hunting quest, and that's going to end up getting you sort of more bang for your buck from the combined might of that. However, this is probably still not a good use of your apples at the current point in time. Where it is actually pretty decently good for is on the actual drop rate of the Ascension mat listed in the thing. However, even then, you might find some where there's multiple Ascension mats listed in the picture, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. But your next one up here is going to be the Golem Hunt. This is going to have octuplets in it. And again, the 90 plus version of it will also have Berserker Embers and, again, sort of an opportunity here for more QP and rare Ascension spawns. And your next one up here is going to be Seashells. That might be lucrative for you. And the reason I will say is because you will obviously have summer coming up. However, probably a better use of your apples rather than farming seashells here is going to be farming the actual Summer 6 event that will be a functional mini lotto. What do I mean by that? It's a miniature lotto in the fact that Summer 6 does not give you embers, it does not give you mana prisms, it does not give you QP really, it does not give you friend points, but what it's going to give you is a lot of Ascension materials still. So there are some pretty rare and lucrative ones, including very hard to farm normally gold Ascension mats in the Summer 6 event. So I would recommend checking out the list of materials coming out of Summer 6 and determine whether or not you would rather farm there rather than farm for just one material here. Keep in mind too, all of these like 90 plus versions of the event of the hunting quest here are going to be 40 AP. And for this to be better than an actual free quest in which you could farm, most of your free quests out there are somewhere in the range of like 20 to 22 AP. So it almost needs to be double the drop rate to be as efficient as farming a normal free quest. However, usually when we have just a single material drop here, it is. So in this regard, it would be better than doing a free quest, but it's still probably not as much bang for your buck as it would be to actually farm during summer. So the question would be, how badly do you need shells versus how badly do you need all the materials? Because if you just only need shells, this would be better. But I can't imagine most people are in just that situation, and they actually end up needing multiple materials at a time. So again, if you manage to do the 90 plus one of this one, you're going to get Saber Embers, and you're also going to end up getting now a new one, the Silver Crowns, basically from LB5. So that is also going to be decent, plus the QP there, and this is all on the rare spawns that can occur. Now, your next day here is going to be the Chimera Hunt, and the way this one's going to work is even though it is listed as a Chimera Hunt, you can also see that it gives dust. Some of you might be going like, ooh, wow, I could really use some dust. That would be great. Here's the problem with it. This isn't good for just farming dust. The way hunting quests normally work is whenever there's a split rate, whenever there's two materials on the hunting quest, the higher rarity material is the one that's actually more efficient than its free quest. So if you're only farming for dust and not the claws here, it actually wouldn't be worth farming here. You'd be better off going and farming the free quest just for dust. But if you're actually after both claws and dust, this is certainly good. Or if you're just after claws, this is certainly good. That's the easy way to think about it. Is it's good if you're wanting the gold mat or whatever the higher rarity one is, but not necessarily if you're just wanting the lower rarity one. Now, again, looking at the 90 plus for this one, you guys are going to get obviously the gems that I haven't been pointing out here, plus the assassin ember there, and then again more crowns of silvery light as well as QP with the rare spawn. For your next one up here, this one's going to be fruit and stakes. Now, here's the thing I'm going to tell you about this. Stakes do come in a later lotto. In fact, I believe it is the Martha lotto later this year, but someone in chat can correct me if I'm wrong on that. And fruit will be available actually from the Summer 6 farm. So that is one of the rare gold materials that will be available as you farm out treasure chests from Summer 6. So this one's probably not that big of a deal for you to farm either. This is where our clairvoyance actually works for us in terms of farming. We know what's upcoming, we know what to expect, so we can plan accordingly. And so I'm going to tell you that both these materials, even though it seems like a really good combination, and it certainly could be, you have other options for getting both these materials in spades if you so desire. Now, here's the deal on the 90 plus one. Again, this one's going to be rider centric with the gems and Ember there. And then you're also going to get the rare spawn can occasionally give you obviously the QP, but also the Aurora Steel silver material there as well. So if you end up deciding that just the sheer combination of these two materials is very valuable and lucrative for you, there's nothing wrong with spending your apples here. Doubly so if you just have a ton of apples. But again, I'm going to caution most of you and say like, hey, focus more on the actual lotto and maybe even Summer 6 over doing something like, say, the hunting quests if you're low or concerned with your overall apple count. Now, here is the final one, and this one's actually going to be Mirrors and Fangs. Oh, and this did bear worth mentioning on this one. The fruit will be the one that's actually more efficient than its free quest, not necessarily the stakes. So that would be the issue there, too. If you're just farming for stakes, probably not a good idea. Same thing here on the final one. This one's going to be available for 2 days, and same deal where you're going to have a more efficient rate on the mirrors than you will on the fangs. The fangs will not be as efficient as their actual most optimal free quest, but hey, if you just are desperate for mirrors or something like that, maybe something you can go for. But again, I even believe that mirrors are one of the materials that are available for farming later in this year as well. So it's up to you to determine whether or not you wish to farm here. This final 90 plus is going to be again, Lancer focused, and will have the Aurora Steel as its final one. So keep in mind that, like I said, you could certainly use your apples, but you don't need to. This is not necessarily the most lucrative time to use them. And so the PSA is to let you know that not only is this event coming and we don't know when, but also it may be a little bit of a trap. You may have better uses for your resources despite how good the free quests look. And again, there's nothing wrong with just doing the free quests on sort of nat AP and just not worrying about popping apples here. I myself have done that numerous times, even though I'm someone that farms prolifically for my NA account. So you don't necessarily have to worry about it. Farm smarter, not harder. And you will actually, I think, realize that it'll pay dividends for you in the end. If you find the right times to farm, that's where you can get the most bang for your buck. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this PSA. Let me know what you guys think and where you guys will be most looking forward to farming later this year. And I'll be sure to read the comments below, and I will see you guys for Oberon rolls on Monday.